Becoming is better than being, and that's why we consider ourselves to be a work in progress. It means that you are never complete, and you always have an opportunity of becoming something and someone much better.
Yes, it allows you the opportunity to be comfortable while making mistakes and accepting yourself for who you are.
We are work in progress. Hi, I'm Anna.
I'm AX.
And I am Chris M. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hey guys, so today is World AIDS Day.
Yes.
And so in light of that, we thought we would do an episode on AIDS, bring some more awareness and a little destigmatization. So I'm gonna kick it off to Chris M, who has a story that recently came out this month on a lady that naturally cured HIV.
Actually, I have more than one. There are 5 instances where it's been reported of someone who had HIV, and then they either went to remission or cure. Let me use the word cure for now.
5?
Then, five instances.
Impressive.
The first one was called the London Patient back in 2019. This guy had a stem cell transplant.
Oh.
Then he was said to be functionally cured from HIV. So it was completely eradicated, but doctors prefer not to use cure, but functionally, remission rather. The second one is called Timothy Brown, or the Berlin Patient, back in 2008. Same thing, stem cell transplant. Another one, the third one is the Mississippi baby. Now, this one's a bit interesting. It happened in 2013.
Okay.
So this kid was born with HIV, mother to child transmission. Then the doctors put them on strong ARVs for 18 months, 3 different ARVs for 18 months. And then the mother lost care. So if they were going to Kenyatta National Hospital, they stopped. So Kenyatta now could not continue.
No.
Yes. And now they had left for about 5 months. For 5 months, the doctors could not trace these people. What they were on that regimen for 18 months.
Okay.
Now, when the mother went back to hospital, the baby's viral load was undetectable. Yes, so we don't know what they did in those 5 months, but it's assumed that the regimen that they were put on for the 3 different ARVs for 18 months is that which had helped. However, 1 year later, detectable levels of HIV were found again in the baby. The fourth instance is a French teen, same with the stem transplant people. Now, the fifth one is a bit more interesting again. It's called the Visconti group. This happened in 2012. Now, this was a study in which 14 Frenchmen living with HIV started taking ARVs within 10 days of infection.
Okay.
After 3 years of medication, they stopped taking the treatment. This would normally result in the reemergence of the virus, right?
Yeah.
But it didn't. Remarkably, they maintained low levels of HIV in their systems for an average of 7 years before the recurrence of the virus in their systems. Now, what I found during my course of this research is nobody really truly recovers from HIV.
Okay.
Just like cancer, it goes into remission, but now this one, the viral load goes up and down, depending on the regimen that you are on, but nobody has ever truly recovered 100% from HIV for the remainder of their life. So maybe you tell us about the recent lady, but these 5 each came back.
Oh, it what?
It came back, yeah.
It came back at some point.
Oh, wow.
The levels were reduced for a period of time. Then the kid
accepted
took
it.
1 year.
Oh my
The Visconti group took
goodness.
7 years.
Oh my goodness. Can you imagine the joy of finding out that you're no longer HIV positive, and then you go back to get for your yearly test and you find out you're HIV
You're
positive
back in.
again.
And we're back.
Hey.
So, yeah.
It's kind of like how you have cancer that you can
Yeah.
get rid of it and then some years later
It comes back.
again. So the most recent one was a 30-year-old Argentinian woman. She's being dubbed the Esperanza Patient. Now what happened with her is she was diagnosed in 2013 with HIV, and she wasn't on any medication, if I'm not mistaken. She was on medication for 6 months with ARVs in 2019 because she was pregnant. So now she had a baby. The baby hasn't shown any viral loads. So no signs of the virus in the baby at all. And the same thing with her. With her in particular, they tested over 1 billion blood cells and 500 million tissue cells and found no evidence of HIV in her system.
Yeah.
What they're calling this is sterilizing cure. And basically, it's a very elite group of people who have what's called an elite controller. And this is basically that their immune system is able to suppress HIV on its own. So what now doctors are looking at now with the introduction of genomics, which is altering your genes to be able to cure diseases that you couldn't cure before. So doctors are now a bit more hopeful because they're trying to test patients like this and see how they can study their immune systems and see how they can replicate it using genomics. So maybe she's hopeful, but then from what you're saying, after a few years,
it'll come
so
back.
We don't know, maybe it's still too early, maybe
But
another 10 years.
this is 2021, right? So technology and medicine has advanced. So it could be the first reported case, in my view, that maybe it goes forever. We never know. It could be. But
We wish her the best, though.
with regards to HIV, there's like a study I was looking at, and maybe Anna, you can correct me if I'm wrong. They were talking about how some people are not allowed to go to some places because of
What?
HIV.
Yes.
In the 21st century, you're being serious. Like
Yes.
we're all living in a world in which we know you can't get HIV or AIDS from touching somebody on things like that. But there are still countries that say if you have AIDS or HIV, you can't enter my territory.
Yes, there's actually quite a few. UN has been pushing
Oh my
for
God.
a lot of, I think maybe 42 remaining. I'm not sure of the exact number. But basically, you have countries that have travel restrictions on either vacations, short stay, long stay, whether or not you can immigrate permanently. There's quite a few countries, but the red zone means basically complete travel restrictions if you have HIV. These countries are Russia, Turkmenistan, Azerbaijan, Iraq, Syria, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Oman, Sudan, and Egypt, and Malaysia.
So actually, you know what? There's a really interesting correlation between all those nations. With the exception of, I think, Russia, Turkmenistan, Azerbaijan, one of the genres.
And also Sudan is also part of it.
Yeah, is the fact that a lot of these countries are very Muslim dominated, very strong religious traditions. And do you think that has a role to play in why they continue to stigmatize and
You say
discriminate
Muslim, but
against?
there, Egypt is in that list.
Sudan.
In Africa, it's Egypt and Sudan.
Yeah.
We'll put the map out that shows you the different zones and.
Guys, I have an unpopular opinion. Yeah.
You always have unpopular opinions. I'm
And
terrified. Always.
I don't blame those countries for having such a.
Damn
I don't
it,
blame those
Chris.
countries for having such a
But
view.
why? Why?
Chris.
Let's be honest, right? We've been going through something called Corona,
It's not
right?
the same thing.
It's not the same, but it is the same.
It's
countries.
not the same thing.
It's not the same, but it's the same. And I'll
It's
tell you
not
why.
the same
Let me tell you why I'm saying that.
Okay,
Yeah?
fine.
COVID, if you're vaccinated, you can get it, but it won't ravage you as much, right?
Sure.
I'll say when people go on holidays, more often than not, they tend to live their life, right?
Yeah.
Have fun.
Okay.
And sometimes people throw caution to the wind, right? And so sometimes, if you have someone who's infected, maybe, yeah, and they're like, you know what, you only live once. I have this chance to go to Russia this one time, so I'm going there and I'm going to enjoy my Russian experience, yeah? So they're like, you know what, no, because of that, just stay in your country if you're infected, and maybe that's a good reason for people to do domestic tourism or go to other places in which you're allowed to go to.
This is stigma. The thing with even COVID, you see, COVID is easily transmittable, right?
Yes.
So I kiss my hand, you touch my hand, you may get it.
Yeah.
HIV is not like that at all. You can kiss someone, you can share their spoons. You're not going to transmit it. It's blood to blood or through
Bodily fluids.
or through body fluids. But that doesn't include saliva.
Yeah.
So why do I need to disclose if I have it? Because you're not going to get it most likely, unless you're having unprotected sex. But I mean, maybe the solution should be to have better education about these issues.
I'm 100% with Anna over here.
I mean, I agree with that. But what I'm saying is, I really don't blame them too much when they have such laws, because they're trying to protect their own society. That's how that society lives, and those are their views on HIV. We could say it's stigma, but I mean, then London has stigmatized Africa based on their COVID and all of those two things.
Yes.
But that's wrong too. We're not saying that's
yeah,
okay.
that's
That's wrong. Sometimes stigma is good, by the way. Sometimes stigma
What?
is good,
No,
and sometimes
stigma by
shame is good
definition
also.
No, okay, fine. I understand. I will agree with you that
Yes.
shame is good.
Yes.
Shame is good, yes. But in
is
this
different.
instance, you should not have an entire state making an individual feel ashamed for something they had no control over.
And
Actually, you have control.
No.
Do you have to go to Russia? Let's be honest.
Well, let's
do you
say
have to
you
go
do.
to Russia?
If I have business,
Let's say
yes.
you do, right.
I mean, we live in a world where you can do things virtually. now.
Imagine being born
Chris.
into HIV
I understand
and then being told, well, because you were born like this, you just can't go to these countries. That seems a bit unfair.
Stay in your own country. I mean, it sounds bad, but I understand why they're like that. And you said it. They are Islamic countries. They are Muslim countries. Yeah, we know they are very radical in their beliefs and how they operate as a society.
But okay, so there's different zones. The red zone are the ones I highlighted. Those
Yes.
ones have like complete
Blackout,
restrictions.
needle,
They require you to test all kinds of things. So you have to disclose whether or not you have HIV. A lot of personal questions, I'm sure. But you also have like a red zone, a green zone, a yellow zone. And those countries, some of them are Western countries that have some kinds of restrictions, not as bad as the red zones. Some of them are Western countries, Christian countries. New Zealand recently, in the month of November, removed these restrictions, but New Zealand was one of them.
You know, you can't go to Uganda, I think, Uganda or Tanzania, if you not receive the vaccine, the yellow fever shot and all those things. So this is not a new thing.
But that's what
Countries have their own things.
Okay, fine. I understand that, restricting our inherent freedom of mobility is only acceptable when there's a public health crisis. And in the 1980s, 1990s, I mean, some would argue that in certain countries around the world, like Eswatini, HIV/AIDS is still an epidemic. It's still a huge problem.
Yes.
So, like, I would understand if a country like Eswatini was like, you know what, no more. If you have HIV, please don't come, because we're trying to take care of our own. Like, we can't handle you and ours at the same
Don't
time.
export it also.
But you see, these countries,
You can't trap people in their countries.
these countries in the red zone, it's not like they don't have HIV patients there. They do. So what's to stop a citizen of, let's say, Russia, from spreading it to their people?
That's simple, yeah. Just like Corona, there are different variants of. You know that's true. There are different variants of even HIV. So, I mean, this is a useless argument. But all I'm saying is, let's keep ourselves confined in one space. Russia are not saying that you don't visit that country. They're saying, if you have HIV, first of all, you have to be tested. You have to declare all those two things, yeah. What's wrong with that? When you're going to get your visa, you're asked a myriad of questions. You just add another one now.
But is it fair that you are not allowed to enter any particular country? That you're not allowed to do certain things just because you're HIV positive? Is that fair? Because that's the very essence of what we're discussing.
It's not fair.
Does it help destigmatize HIV patients?
Maybe not. But do you think they care?
Who?
The Russian people are happy. The Russian people are.
We don't know if the Russians are happy.
Okay, I'll put it this way: we can't be putting our own binoculars or our own blinders to the world. If we think it's unfair, that's fine. As Kenya, we allow people to come in, right? Fair enough. That's good enough for us, yeah. But Russia, they're not ready. They're not yet there. Why not give them time until they're ready as a society, until they can now open up their country? You just said New Zealand remove those restrictions, right? Eventually they'll get there. Right now they're not there. That's fine. Let's just accept that. It's only 13 or 34 countries out of 199 countries. That's almost negligible. Let them have those restrictions until they're ready. Let them take their time. Let's not rush them to do these things.
X?
I have nothing else to say except that, Chris, you continue to surprise me. Chris. Chris. Okay, I'm done. I have nothing else to say on this topic.
So as we wrap up this segment then, because we're going to have some fire after, off camera.
Yes, off camera, Chris.
We want to just clarify something just to, help spread proper awareness.
Yeah.
I think in the past week or two, Kenya has been experiencing a shortage of condoms, and as a result, the MOH came out and told the public, and particular kids, or teens, to use alternatives. Now by that, they meant things like birth control, but that was more to protect against unplanned pregnancies.
Yeah.
But we need to clarify, these other methods do not protect you from STIs. So please educate yourself on what safe sex means, so that you're not using birth control thinking it's going to protect you from HIV. So be careful and educate yourself a bit.
Yes.
I hope the government does something to rectify that shortage, because a few years ago there was a news item where people, I think in Turkana and those areas, were forced to reuse condoms. Yeah, so what they do is they'd use them, clean them, sun dry them, and then I think use something else to help with that process. But I hope the government does something so that it doesn't get to that point, because it might be a bit dicey. But
and finally, don't forget to get tested. It doesn't hurt.
Yeah, see you on the other side of the break. And we're back, guys.
Hey, guys.
Welcome back to Work in Progress. We had some small fight off camera, but now
It wasn't
we're back
a
to be
fight,
friends.
it was a discussion, a very passionate discussion.
I felt attacked, that's all I'm saying.
Chris.
But we move. This next segment, we are going to ask a philosophical question. And the reason we want to do this is not really to challenge ourselves, but to look at different perspectives through a particular, a different way of looking to things, right? So guys, I'll pose a question to you guys, and we can have a discussion around it, yeah?
Okay.
The question is this: should we kill coma patients on life support to provide more resources to others?
Oh.
Coma patients on life support.
If I can start?
Yeah.
I think the basis of this question is the greatest good, like the greatest good for the greatest number, right? And so because what you're doing is killing. If killing one person saves 5 others, then I think that it's somewhat morally justified, maybe, but I also think that it should be a choice. Like, somebody representing the coma patient has to be able to decide for them. Because if it's forced, then I think that's an issue. But if I choose, you know what? If I get into a coma and I'm not waking up, it's okay. You can take me off life support, use my heart to give it to a little girl, let her live a life. You know.
Before you give me a view, you said for the greater good, if taking one life saves 5, you're okay with it. So you know the trolley problem, yeah?
I know the trolley problem. I didn't want to reference the trolley problem.
So where do you stand on that one?
Okay, for the trolley problem, it depends. We've done it before on WHIP, but let me explain it to you. So on the trolley problem, you are standing by 2 train tracks. A train, and by your side is a lever that can control change the tracks.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So you see a trolley barreling down the tracks.
Yes.
On its path is one person tied to the tracks. Now you can switch the train tracks and the trolley will go a different direction, but 5 people are tied to those different tracks. So what do you do?
The other way around. It's going towards 5 people, and on the opposite track is 1 person. Do you switch and it kills one person?
Same.
No, here you're saving the 5 to kill 1.
Yeah.
Rather than saving.
Some feelings from the previous conversation. Is that?
It's the same.
No, the other one, you see the difference with that one is,
Okay.
if you let it continue, it kills 1 person, and you save the 5.
Okay, point is, do you kill 1 or do you kill 1 to save 5 or do you kill 5 to save 1? That's the trolley problem.
Do you let nature take its course? Okay, so think about that.
No.
Give us your...
Is there like a limit that we can put? So for example, if someone's in a coma for a year, maybe it's still too early.
But you see,
but maybe,
it's
5 or
support.
10 years.
It's life support. So basically,
they're like a vegetable. I mean, okay, I don't know, because what life do you have even if you do wake up? You're going to still just need everyday 24/7 care. You're not going to have a life. So maybe, but I feel there should be like some time and what you said, there needs to be some kind of thing you sign. If you say, if I get into a coma past a certain time, you're good to go.
What if, let me give you another scenario. Something happens, yeah? And we need beds. People
like COVID.
Like COVID.
Oh.
So you need the bed, you need a lot of things, yeah? But this person has been there for maybe 7 months, 1 year, 2 years, just taking up resources. So you can either take their life and save the lives of these people coming in, or you let nature take its course and they're like, hey, this guy was here before you, you're giving him medical attention, too bad for you.
It's just, I feel bad for the people
Exactly.
in the coma. You don't want to, like...
No, I don't want to say like that there's an obvious right answer, because there's no such thing as like an obvious right answer, but it feels like the person in a coma should maybe be allowed to kick the bucket, should be allowed to run in a farm somewhere really far away, while we save the people who we actually have a chance of saving. Because when you phrase it as a resource problem, then it makes the most amount of sense.
Yeah,
It
yes,
does,
indeed,
yeah.
to save other guys.
It just feels bad to say.
Okay, let me ask you another question. Let's move away from that one, Kilo. It's a bit emotive, yeah? Do you guys think democracy is suitable for all nations?
But before we get there, what do you think of the question you just posed us?
Democracy?
No, the coma one.
Oh, kill them. I believe we should kill them.
No equivocating, no guilt, just...
No.
You see how, the thing is, he's too quick to answer.
Yeah.
That's the problem. He hesitated
Wait,
a bit.
exactly.
Remember what I said about some traits of sociopaths? Some episodes back.
When I said I was a cat, this is what I was referring to. I'm
Imagine
saying,
it wasn't even me.
no, this guy is life support, so their brain and their heart, they're being kept alive by machines, right?
I'd say this, if it was me, you can take my life.
No, but equally, if this person is being kept alive by machines,
Yeah, life support.
never mind. That's
There's
the
something-
democracy one. No.
No, there's something called euthanasia, mercy killing. And that's it's in the law.
Again,
It's allowed.
yeah.
It's permissible.
I support euthanasia, but as long as it's a choice, like by the patient, like they choose, I want to die, and so they get a doctor to help them.
So let me ask you this. Okay, but then we won't go to democracy. Let's just take a minute, yeah? So you, right now, let's say this person X,
Yeah.
traveling from point A to point B. In between the journey, they have an accident. They had not thought through if I'm on life support, pull the plug and all that. So something happens in between point A and point B. They become vegetative, yeah? They lie in hospital for 10 years, sucking up resources for the family. Don't you think at that point it becomes, now not their choice, but the choice of people who have to deal with that.
With something like that, I'd say 10 years is a long time.
5 years.
Even,
You have to keep
I
doing
feel like,
harambes and all those things.
I think, yeah, even 5 is long.
2 years.
But
Look at you testing my
yeah,
limits.
you really are. No, but like I also think that we are too narrowly understanding the kind of value coma patients have, because whether or not we want to admit it, those patients are still individuals that have families and communities that will miss them when they die. So in as much as they're taking up space and taking up valuable medical resources, there's still value in the fact that they are physically alive and like still able, like people are able to go see them and gain comfort in their existence.
To me, you lose value when you start becoming a burden to others.
Oh my God, Chris.
And that's the truth.
No, I think actually you should maybe even have your next of kin be able to make that decision then. Since, you know, if you're not able to have the ability to have decided that beforehand, maybe it can land on your daughter, your wife, someone.
So that you don't fight. Okay, Anna, you had a quote for us.
Yeah, let me leave you with a quote by Benjamin Franklin. And it's, "An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure." So prevention is always better than looking for a cure, so let's work on that.
And that's where we conclude this week's episode. Catch us next week on Work in Progress. Until then, be safe.
See you.